Hi, everybody. It's Geezer Bill, and I'm here today and going to be talking with Scott in our continuing series of opening tracks. And I think we've got one of those opening album, first album situations here.
You cannot have this discussion about opening tracks without talking about this one. This to me is probably the greatest opening track of all time, at least in the rock and roll era, right? The name of the track is Black Sabbath. The name of the album is Black Sabbath, and the name of the band is Black Sabbath. This one was released in the U.S. on June the 1st of 1970, which means that was the summer after my sophomore year in high school. So it was probably later, after high school had started, for my junior year. And Dan and I know Dan was there. I don't remember who else was there, but I remember we were in somebody's room on a Friday night having, I don't know if we were talking, was it Dee's room? He's making signals like it was in his room. But I remember I never heard of this thing, didn't know what it was, had no idea. And somebody put this on, first it starts out with the thunderstorms and the chimes. It's like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, this foreboding, ominous Ozzy Osbourne voice.
What is this that stands before me? Figure in black, which points at me.
And I'm going, what the shit is this? I was a kid who was brought up in a pretty strict Baptist household, going to church every morning, learning the Baptist doctrine, and getting the shit scared out of us about what Satan's going to do to us if we don't if we don't do the right thing. And then I'm listening to this, and this is scaring the hell out of me. And I grabbed this album and look at this album cover, increase the stress level that was going on as I was listening to this stuff. I mean, it just pulled me in. It sucked me into this world. It pulled me into this world, and I was mesmerized by this thing. The sound of it, the lyrics are going on here, the picture on the cover, the sound of Ozzy's voice. I mean, I was taking a trip into the first level of hell, and seeing what this is all about. And not only on the opening track, I mean, it started with that opening track, but it goes all the way through this album. I still, to this day, think, if you want to talk about debut albums, this is probably the best debut album ever in the rock era. This is the best opening track ever in the rock era. And you know what this opening track didn't just bring you into this world that this band was creating for you, just masterfully here. But this opening track opened an entire genre of music. This is where heavy metal started, right here on this first track of this first album. There was a little dabbling in it before this, with some of the harder rock. There are bands like Grand Funk and Steppenwolf and Blood Rock. I remember back in the day that people look at as at least proto metal bands. This is where it started, right here. the opening track of this album. And yeah, it was just you can't top it. As far as I'm concerned, you cannot top this for something. You know, Bill was suggesting we go to the angle of what is, you know, of an opening track that really grabbed you and pulled you in. Somebody, I challenge anybody to give me a better example of that than this one here.
Well, I'll tell you, the first time I heard this, because I was not a big, as a kid, I wasn't a heavy metal fan. And so everything, you know, I considered, you know, Zeppelin was exotic enough to be, you know, heavy. And you know, certainly they have their moments, but they're not really, I wouldn't call them a heavy metal band.
No,
But Black Sabbath was scary. So I never listened to them for years until I listened to this. So of course, I didn't listen to it in the right order. So when I finally had a chance to listen to this, I was, for the first like 2 minutes, I was sort of underwhelmed. I'm like, what? This is very tedious. I mean, I know they've done better work afterwards. So I was quite surprised. And then all of a sudden it starts to get a little scary. And then the sound is really clear to me. It's a very clean, and it's powerful. That's
very clean, wide open spaces in this record.
Yeah.
It's very clean, very clean.
And it's got this kind of sludge march.
Yeah.
And then the last minute and a half, it's like, oh my God, the whole world is exploding with the, you know, the guitar solo is incredible. I hadn't, what is this guy doing? This guy is crazy. And you know, Ozzy's wailing, and Geezer's doing his whatever he's doing with the bass. The whole thing is just, it's crazy. And I can only imagine what happens to, like in your case, where you listen to it in the right order. Like, this is the record you hear. It's the first time you hear them.
That's the first time I've never heard anything like this before. Never.
It scared me when I was familiar with them by then, and I was still scared.
Yeah, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before, nothing I'd ever seen, but nothing I've ever expected. You know, I mean, it just came out of the blue, and at an impressionable age. You know, I would have been 16 years old when this happened, and just entering into my appreciation of what's going on out in the world beyond, you know, beyond what's going on on June Drive in Arnold, Missouri, right? and there are two things that just really got under my skin from this record, and still does to this day, and it's the sound of Ozzy's voice, and not so much beyond that opening track, not so much the lyrics that he's singing, but just the sound of his voice just is frightening in this record. And the way it's produced, and also Tony Iommi's guitar work. It's just it comes from the depth of hell. You know, it just comes out, and it's in your face, and it exists to try to destroy you.
Sing the old man blues. They're trading your Playboy for some hush puppy shoes. One more time.